Part 136. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1351. Feng Qingxiu said, "It can be seen that Zhou is used to using a weak appearance to protect himself. If he was really weak, he wouldn't beat Wang Qinjun violently. She is smart, knows how to advance and retreat, and has good conduct. She can be regarded as a good girl. I don't know which brat will get the advantage of her in the future." Hong Zanjun said with a smile, "This child repays her kindness very well. Last month, she sent some fine grain, saying it was the rations given to them by the Wanglu Brigade at the end of the year. She said it would be for me and her grandma. Her grandma is illiterate. She didn't dare to send it directly to her grandma, so she sent it to me. I sent some to her grandma from time to time, but I didn't dare to give it all at once for fear of being discovered by her family." Guan Yu patted his chest and said, "Grandpa Hong, don't worry. When I, Tianzi, come home, I will definitely pay attention to Zhou's affairs and prevent others from bullying her. Our family is still quite respectable. Isn't it a few points?" Lu Tianzi looked at him sideways. "The Lu family in the Wanglu Brigade are now very respectable and have long stopped paying attention to their composition." Guan Yu chuckled, cupped his cheeks and said, "How does Zhou know boxing and kicking? If I have a chance some other time, I can compete with her to see who is better, our two brothers or her." He was thinking about this because it was so incredible. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu didn't care and asked Hong Zanjun about Jin Laokai. "Jin Laokai? That's a down-and-out 8 banners kid. It seems he used to have a yellow flag or a straight yellow flag." Hong Zanjun thought for a while. "He lived behind my house. When the liberation was just around the corner, he pulled a rickshaw for a while. After the founding of the People's Republic of China, the country, he said that he wanted to take care of these elderly people, so he allocated 2 houses for him to live in, and also arranged a job for him to sweep the streets, and he is still doing it now." Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu went to find Jin Laokai in the evening and sent all the children back to the guest house. Jin Laokai let them in directly. "I saw Xiao San during the day and he told me about this. I have prepared all the things. I just want to see if you can give me more food so that I can live a good life here." As soon as Feng Qingxiu entered the door, she took a fancy to a mat on the bed. Although the tattered quilt could not conceal the elegance of this mat. As white as jade, it looks very beautiful under the light. "How can I sell this mat?" Feng Qingxiu said directly. Jin Laokai glanced at her in surprise. Unfortunately, they were heavily armed and he couldn't see their faces and expressions clearly. "I've seen a lot of people buying second-hand goods. Most of them pretend they're not interested so they can lower the price. In fact, I like it very much. You directly expressed your interest in this seat, and you are not afraid that I will raise the price." Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "Xiao San said you are a happy person, why bother beating around the bush? We only have so much stuff, you can change it or sell it or not. Although the seat is indeed a priceless treasure. This mat is an ivory mat. The production method has long been lost. It is said that only 3 of them exist and are collected in the Palace Museum. The whereabouts of the other 2 are unknown. I didn't expect that Jin Laokai had one in his hand. Looking at the way this mat stretched freely, it was well preserved. Pretty good." Jin Laokai laughed loudly, Okay, I like happy people. 10 pounds of rice, 10 pounds of noodles, and 1 piece of bacon. You take this mat. This is the ivory mat. As soon as I heard you talking, I knew that you know the goods. Now you know the goods, there are not many people left. This mat was made during the Yongzheng period and was scattered from the palace and fell into the hands of my grandfather. He deliberately took it out and put it on the bed. Sure enough, he met someone who knew the goods, and the next transaction was easy to negotiate." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiao Bai. Chapter 1352. When you meet someone who knows the goods, you can naturally increase your prices. Therefore, Jin Laokai was very straightforward and moved out the things he had prepared, including porcelain, jewelry, calligraphy, paintings and ornaments. They are either from the palace or from the prince's family. During the war years, I survived many house raids before I preserved them. Now that people are old, I don't know how many days they can live. What's the point of keeping them in my hands? At this point, he laughed at himself. The things I brought out are more than Xiao San's, and they are more valuable than Xiao San's. I don't want a penny from you, I just want food, at least 300 kilograms of fine grain. We don't have that much on hand at the moment, Lu Zhang said, bringing a total of just over 100 kilograms of fine grain. It doesn't matter, you take the things first. As for the food, you can send it to me tomorrow, or you can send it to me later if you have it. I'm not in a hurry. Jin Laokai was particularly free and easy. That little food supply every month, it's not enough for me to eat, and most of it is coarse grains. It's not like you can't find fine grains during the holidays, and you can't get them if you do. Give me some first to fill my stomach. Lu Zhang nodded in agreement. We have your address, and we can send it to you every month in the future. We really won't be able to get that much food for a while now, but we can give you 120 kilograms of food and some bacon and sausages first. Peanut oil. Okay. When he heard that there was bacon, sausage and peanut oil, Jin Laokai agreed without hesitation. The transaction is completed and everyone receives the goods. Watching them collect and load things, Feng Qingxiu took out the ivory mat and rolled it up in her arms. She said boredly, Master Jin Qi, I heard Master Qiao said that your ancestor was Lord Bile during the Qianlong period. Which Bile master? Let me tell you, the old lady of my ancestor was a princess from Baylor Mansion during the Qianlong period, and you are somewhat related. Jin Laokai was stunned and glanced at them for a moment. Are you Han Chinese? Yes, you want to say that Manchus and Han people don't intermarry, right? Feng Qingxiu said with a smile. Jin Laokai nodded. Let's not talk about the late Qing dynasty. It was a mess. Before and after the heyday of Kangxi and Qianlong, Manchu and Han did not intermarry. However, it is not that there is no such precedent. Manchu princesses can be named after Han people. If you marry a Han under an official name, it will not violate the rule of not intermarriage between Man and Han, and it can also promote the friendship between Man and Han. There is an aunt in our ancestors who married outside like this. I think her surname was Lu, and she was very favored. However, their family has been in decline for a long time. They have not been rich for 3 generations, and they have wandered to nowhere. Hearing these words, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu looked at each other. No way. Feng Qingxiu just said it casually, and she actually met a relative who was separated by countless generations. Jin Laokai couldn't see the expressions of the couple, and asked with great interest, which princess did your ancestors marry? If he was from Baylor Mansion, he should have a title. If he was favored, and he was born to the direct descendant of Fujin, maybe it's a different matter if you are granted the title of Duoluajej, if you are not favored or if you are born to Fujin. Lu Zhang hesitated for a moment, shook his head and said, I don't remember, I just remember it was a princess. They knew it but couldn't say it. They didn't want to get married to Jin Laokai. Then what's your surname? The old lady married by your ancestors is the legitimate descendant. Jin Laokai has been alone in this life and has no other relatives. He has the attitude of asking the question, maybe we may be relatives. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1353. Feng Qingxiu didn't say a word. She regretted her casual words. She didn't know it was such a coincidence. Judging from Lu Jiang's intentions, he had no intention of getting married to Jin Laokai. That's right, if you can't hit it with 8 poles, why should you recognize it? But Jin Laokai doesn't think so. Now that the Qing dynasty has been destroyed for almost a century, it is not easy to meet a descendant of Baylor during the Qianlong period. After all, the time between ancient and modern times is too long, and many princes and nobles have no descendants. I can't find it either. Not every household has a genealogy to record the past events of their ancestors. Jin Laokai's branch is actually no longer included in the official records, but he still remembers the glory of his ancestors. It has been passed down from generation to generation, but it will be discontinued in his generation. Facing Jin Laokai's questioning, Lu Zhang sighed, "My ancestor's surname is Lu, and this grandma's honorific name is He Yao Duo Luo Gege. He Yao Gege." Jin Laokai was dumbfounded. "Oh, hey, this is really not a family that does not belong to the same family. He Yao Gege is my ancestral aunt. According to records, she is the niece of Emperor Qianlong." Feng Qingxiu asked curiously, "Then which branch do you belong to?" The two emperors Kangxi and Qianlong were famous for having many children and grandchildren. The niece of Emperor Qianlong was the daughter of his cousin. Except for Yongzheng, the other sons of Emperor Kangxi may be the ancestors of Heao Gege. Jin Laokai said excitedly, "Prince Yi's branch. We are the descendants of Prince Yi. The last emperor was a descendant of Prince Yi." Feng Qingxiu shook her head and said, "I have read history. It seems that no one in Prince Yi's family was named Baylor during the Qianlong period. There was someone who was directly named Prince Yi from the general of the auxiliary country. Don't coax me, it must be you. Misremembered." "How could I remember it wrong?" Jin Laokai suddenly became anxious. "I saw the Jade Ultimatum when I was a child, but it is gone now. What's true or false has long since vanished into thin air. It's pointless to get to the bottom of it now." Lu Zhang didn't care if it was true or not, because the record about this Gege in his family was that of a daughter of Baylor. It was no longer possible to determine which daughter of Baylor she was. It was said that the genealogy was lost and rebuilt after the defeat. Jin Laokai thought it right, "That's what I said, but I have to tell you that Lord Baylor may have been granted the title during his lifetime, or he may have been granted the title posthumously, or he may have been exonerated after his death, but when future generations mention him, he will definitely be called by the highest title he held during his lifetime. This is the one in my family, he is Lord Bail, but he was expelled." Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu didn't care very much, but Jin Laokai became more and more happy as he talked and asked Lu Jiang's name. "Needless to say, if there is a chance in the future, let's exchange names again. Black market trading, why exchange names? Lu Jiang's current status is extraordinary, so it is naturally impossible to tell Jin Laokai." After listening to Feng Qingxiu's words, Jin Laokai had no choice but to give up. Anyway, the other party had to send him food, so there would always be a chance. After completing this big deal, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu were ready to return to the army. First, the two couples went to pick up Zibao. One old and one young were quite reluctant to part with him. "It's okay. I'll come back to Grandpa in the capital later. The transportation is convenient now." The old leader smiled and said, "I gave you my favorite inkstone. You have to practice your calligraphy well. I will test you when I get back next time." Zibao nodded heavily. "Grandpa, you need to eat more." "Good. I should be able to update it in the morning tomorrow. Tickets for the end of the month, monthly tickets." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1354. After coming out of the old leader's home, he said goodbye to Wang Xinchen and Guo Ming. As soon as he heard about their train tomorrow night, Wang Zonghua's tears immediately fell. "Zibao, Please don't leave, okay? You are 8 years old. We can go to school together. Although Zibao lives in the old leader's home, Wang Xinchen often takes him there to regain their childhood friendship. Zibao stood on tiptoes and patted his shoulder. Hua, a manly man, you won't shed tears if you bleed. Wang Zonghua pursed his lips. I'm not a man, I'm a young man. Hearing this, everyone laughed. Well, you are a young man and I am still a child. Even if I go to school, I have to start in the Yuheng class. You are already in several grades and it is impossible to go to school together. Zibao is not that easy to coax. We can write letters to each other in the future, and I will come to see you when I have time to see Grandpa. Next time, I won't be able to do such simple questions. Zibao learned not only calligraphy and painting, foreign languages, etc. from a group of old men and women, but he was also very proficient in mathematics. Wang Zonghua was scratching his head and couldn't solve such a simple math problem. Zibao suddenly despaired of school. As expected, Zibao couldn't learn much knowledge at school, so Zibao firmly decided to go home. However, after leaving the compound, his mood dropped. I can't bear to leave the old leader, Wang Zonghua, and a group of grandparents who are very good to him. What's wrong? Aren't you happy to see your parents? We can see our younger brothers and sisters when we return to the guest house. Feng Qingxiu touched her son's head. After not seeing him for a few days, there was an indescribable change in his son. I can't bear to leave Grandpa and Huahua. Zibao hugged his mother's waist. Because no one paid attention to them while walking on the road, he whispered, Grandpa's health is getting worse. He can't see clearly and is coughing. It's very serious. Grandpa Guo and many doctors I don't know said it was pneumonia and asked him not to smoke, but he still smoked very badly. Feng Qingxiu patted his back and said, Stop talking, Mom and Dad know it well. Zibao hummed. He is a child after all, a young child with few thoughts. After seeing his younger brothers and sisters, he stopped caring about this matter because he saw Lu Erxian push Dun Dun to the ground and take away Dun Dun's hand. Thing. Mine, Lu Erxian said aggressively. Dun Dun sat on the ground and looked up at his younger brother. He originally wanted to cry, but stopped crying when he saw his parents and brother coming in. He didn't cry, but Lu Erxian did. When his father caught him, he was beaten so hard that he screamed and called for his mother. When Feng Qingxiu saw Feng Qingxiu, he turned around unbearably. Come forward to persuade. Uncle, Er Xiong is still young. Lu Tianzi hugged brother Xiong aside to avoid Lu Jiang's next slap. Although it was obvious that Lu Jiang was careful in his actions, it still made people feel distressed. This kid won't have a long memory if he doesn't hit him. Lu Jiang was so angry that his eyes widened, and Lu Erxian was frightened and cried again. He always hits people and grabs things at every turn. If you don't discipline him well and let him know the pain, then what will happen? Come on. Lu Tianzi blinked his big eyes. Uncle, Er Xiong looks like you. Guan Yu nodded. They often heard Lu's father mention the past. Lu Erxian's present was Lu Jiang's childhood. The old man said more than once that he was worthy of being a father and son. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1355. With one sentence and a nod, Ping Zhenkai, who was present, almost couldn't help but laugh. Zibao pulled Dun Dun up, patted the dust on his butt, turned around and asked curiously, Really? Yes, is it true, brother Tianzi? I've never met my father when I was a child. Fu Bao's childlike words immediately made everyone laugh, and even Lu Jiang couldn't hold back his serious face. Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but said, If you could see your father when you were a child, you would no longer be our daughter. Fu Bao didn't understand what she meant. He held his little brother with one hand and pulled the sleeve of Lu Tianzi's arm, holding Er Xiong with the other. Brother Tianzi, you haven't answered me yet. is it true? Everyone is laughing at me. Really? Lu Tianzi nodded vigorously. My grandpa said that my uncle was very tortured when he was a child. Erxian followed his aunt in the army. Finally, he can let his uncle taste the torture he felt when he was a child. So, Zibao and Fuebao looked at Lu Zhang in unison, with a pair of big watery eyes flashing. Everyone in the Lu family has beautiful big eyes, without exception. Lu Jiang's face was as black as ink, and he became angry with embarrassment. That's nonsense, how could I be as bad as Er Xiong? Uncle, you are as bad as Er Xiong, ah no, you are naughty. Lu Tianzi felt that he was being impolite, and hurriedly added, my grandma said, you go to my grandma, don't glare at me. Grandpa said that when you were a child, he was too embarrassed to take you out because he had to apologize to people every day. If you always took things from others, you would beat them if they didn't give them back. Isn't this talking about Lu Erxian? Everyone was embarrassed to look at Lu Zhang, so they had to look at Lu Erxian, the aggrieved Lu Erxian. Lu Erxian rubbed his eyes and said with sobs, Daddy is bad. Feng Qingxiu asked her nephew to put him on the ground, then she squatted down to look at him levelly, holding his shoulders with both hands. Xiong Xiong, listen to your mother, don't steal other people's things in the future, don't hit people casually, others will hit you first, you can fight back, as long as the responsibility does not lie with you, your parents bear all the responsibilities, but you cannot take the initiative to hit people and steal things. Mom, Lu Erxian laughed through tears, put his arms around Feng Qingxiu's neck, and rubbed his fat face with tears on her face. Mom, I want to eat dumplings. Okay, the words were wasted again, and I didn't listen at all. This child is really a headache for parents. He has been beaten and scolded, and he has been taught what needs to be taught, but he still remains the same. Ping Zhenkai hurriedly said, Sister-in-law, don't worry so much. How can children not be naughty and mischievous? In the past few years of my service as a soldier, I often see children fighting in the army compound. Boys and girls fight the same way. It will be good if you are sensible. If Er Xiong is like a leader, then there is no need to worry. Look how energetic the leader is now. Feng Qingxiu sighed, such a child is annoying. No one will play with him in the future. How lonely is it? He beats people and robs other people's things. We can't explain to each other and their parents. We can't judge others. Who doesn't feel sorry for their children? It's not as serious as you said, sister-in-law. It's common for children to fight. Not everyone is as careful as Feng Qingxiu. Ping Zhenkai discovered that Feng Qingxiu was really attentive when it came to taking care of her children. In addition to discipline, she also paid attention to nutrition in terms of diet, almost to the level of being picky. No wonder the children of the Lu family grew up so well. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1356. On the last day in the capital, Feng Qingxiu and Lu Zhang decided to take their children for a walk. Although they had been in the capital for several days, they had not had a serious time to travel, and the couple felt a little sorry for their children. Visiting relatives and friends and going out for dinner did not count as walking. Zibao was a child who had seen big scenes and was very reserved. Fuebao was better. She was very quiet now and was a little lady. She did not have much curiosity. The others were just country bumpkins who had come to the city. Even though they had seen many things they had never seen in the past few days, they could not help but stare at the scenery on both sides of the road, and could not bear to blink. In addition to the buses they had taken, there were also taxis and cars on the street. Guan Yu was quite curious, so he ran over to ask a few questions, but was scared back by the conditions and fees for soliciting customers. Oh my god, dozens of dollars, Guan Yu patted his chest. He and his brother could not earn dozens of dollars a year by work points. The year before Lu Tianjun joined the army, the family earned 100 yuan. Most of the living expenses were given to them by Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu. The passbook was in Lu's father's hands. And they only take foreigners, not our countrymen, Feng Qingxiu smiled. Anyway, we don't take it. It doesn't matter to us whether it's rich or poor. Ping Zhenkai smiled and said, we don't have a car. Why do we take someone else's taxi? The army has a car for leaders above the division level, but Comrade Lu rarely uses it. He is also an outlier in the army. Except for picking up family members or business trips, he doesn't use it at all. Guan Yu and Lu Tianzi stuck out their tongues and said in unison, Uncle, Aunt, where are we going? Where are we going? In fact, Feng Qingxiu and Lu Zhang were also worried. The capital does have many scenic spots and historical sites. After all, it is the capital of the last dynasty. There is a well-preserved forbidden city, the Summer Palace, Prince Gong's mansion, the Temple of Heaven, the ruins of the old Summer Palace, etc., but the times are different. Taking the bus is a decadent life of the bourgeoisie. It has become a fleet of foreign guests, let alone sightseeing. Besides, a few years ago, a disaster destroyed many scenic spots and historical sites, and many city gates and old cities were demolished. The staff of the Palace Museum went to the grassroots to participate in labor learning last year, and now the Palace Museum is still closed. After thinking about it, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu took the children to visit the grocery store and department store. As soon as he entered the grocery store, Lu Erxiang refused to leave. His fat face was pressed against the glass of the counter selling cakes and pastries. The salesperson saw his flat face clearly, and saw the saliva flowing from the corners of his mouth, as bright as his sparkling eyes, which reminded her of a little white fat man a long time ago. Feng Qingxiu felt embarrassed and reached out to grab him. Although Erxian was wearing thick clothes and looked bloated, he was very flexible and a soft and flexible little fat boy. He avoided his mother's hand and said to the salesperson without any shame, I want to eat cakes. Very confident. No money, Feng Qingxiu answered straightforwardly. Hearing this, Dun Dun swallowed his saliva and said nothing, while Zhuang said to Lu Erxian, no money. Lu Erxian's eyes turned around, I have money. He looked down and flipped through his small bag, and took out a handful of money, 1, 2, 5 yuan, roughly 10 yuan. Where did you get it from? Lu Zhang frowned. Because their family had no shortage of food, clothing, housing, and transportation, they did not have the habit of giving children change. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1357. Fu Bao raised his hand, I know. Grandpa Wang gave it to Dun Dun and Zhuang. I also have it, but my brother doesn't have it. It's 20 yuan each. Grandpa said he would buy us fruits to eat, no tell us to tell our parents. Buy cake, Lu Erxian waved the money in his hand. Dun Dun and Zhuang were different. The two dolls each took out 2 large Unity cards from their pockets and said, give it to Mom. The weather was very cold, so they didn't change their clothes every day. When they came out of the courtyard yesterday, Feng Qingxiu never thought of opening the children's pockets. With this oversight, they all had their own private money. Why is yours in whole money and Erxiang's in small change? Feng Qingxiu accepted the money and found it strange. Zibao said, it goes without saying that Erxiang must have thought that 2 pieces of money were too little, so Grandpa Wang and Grandma Wang gave him change. It seems to be a lot more than Dun Dun and Zhuang. Fu Bao nodded aside, his brother was so smart, he guessed it right. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu were speechless. Since Erxiang has money, use his money to buy cakes for him, and the other 2 couples will spend money to buy them for the other children. Anyway, Lu Erxiang doesn't know. Dun Dun and Zhuang pinched the walnut cakes with smiles. Thinking of the children such as Zheng Lingling and Yukimiya Almoides in the courtyard, Feng Qingxiu bought some more pastries and prepared to take them back. After visiting the grocery store, we went to the department store. Guan Yu and Lu Tianzi were immediately opened their eyes to the dazzling array of things to see. It was worthy of being the capital city. Perhaps boys are naturally fond of cars and watches, so the two children only focused on those selling bicycles and watches. Feng Qingxiu kept it in mind and decided to give each of them a watch when they turned 18. If they didn't have the money to buy a watch, they would just buy an imported watch. This was a treatment that neither Guanchen nor Lu Tianjun had. Neither did Feng Qingyun, but Feng Qingxiu planned to give her some of her jewelry collection. Zheng Jinrui and Chen Swiniang both work in the department store. Zheng Jinrui is a cotter. He was originally assigned to be transferred to the capital at the cotter level. Naturally, he will not change when he gets here. The couple were very happy to see Lu Zhang and his family. Let's have dinner together after get off work and practice it for you. Chen Swiniang, who was in charge of selling cloth, pulled Feng Qingxiu aside and whispered, "The batch of processed cloth that just arrived today has minor problems such as uneven dyeing and defects on the cloth head. It's cheaper without the cloth stamps. I keep a lot for myself, do you want it? I'll sell it to you." Yes, with everyone's help. My family is not short of food and clothing, but other people's families are in dire need. This kind of treated cloth is a good choice for personal use or as a gift. Feng Qingxiu had long forgotten her ambition to be diligent and frugal, and now she could only buy. Feng Qingxiu bought a lot of cotton, khaki, denim, and artificial cotton. Of course, Chen Swiniang chose the ones with the fewest flaws and gave her some corduroys with problems with the fabric ends. After spending a full 78 yuan, Feng Qingxiu had to stop. It was the first time for Guan Yu and Lu Tianzi to see Feng Qingxiu spending money lavishly. Unknowingly, he spent 100 yuan. They were stunned at first, and then looked at Lu Zhang. With such a lavish wife, his uncle must have spent money lavishly. Very hard, right? Lu Zhang glanced at his nephew and said, "Your aunt has never spent money recklessly. Not to mention that he didn't spend money randomly, he was happy to indulge even if he spent money randomly." The two brothers raised their thumbs in unison. The game tickets at the end of the month, monthly tickets, will be updated at noon, not finished yet. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1358. After having dinner with Zheng Jinrui and Chen Swiniang, the family boarded the train back to Beizhu. When we got on the bus, snow began to fall in the capital. I don't know if it will snow in Beizhu, but we got off the bus in the middle of the night. There is no formal weather forecast now. Lu Zhang took Zhuang from his wife's arms and said smoothly, "It's okay, don't worry, I have already contacted the army, and 2 cars will be sent to pick us up then, one for me and one for Mr. Chen Ge." Feng Qingxiu hummed and was wrapping Zhuang in a cotton cloak when she heard a call for a doctor on the radio. "You take care of the child, Zhenkai, and I will go over and take a look." Feng Qingxiu did not forget to bring up her first aid kit. She carries this box with her all the time. Lu Zhang wanted to replace Ping Zhenkai and accompany his wife. Obviously, his wife couldn't let go of the children, so he had to warn him, "You must be careful when you go there. If you solve the problem, come back immediately." "No." Feng Qingxiu got up and walked through the aisle. Within 2 minutes, she arrived at the sleeper car mentioned on the radio, which was also a box. Ping Zhenkai shouted that she was a doctor along the way, and all the conductors and passengers walking in the aisle gave way. The main reason was that Ping Zhenkai was wearing a military uniform and was particularly eye-catching. When they arrived, there was already a doctor tending to the patient. Hearing Feng Qingxiu say that she was a doctor, although the conductor was a little skeptical because she was too young after all, He still quickly gave way because the middle-aged male doctor who was giving first aid to the patient shook his head and said that he was powerless. It's no longer curable. The situation was critical. Feng Qingxiu pushed him away and approached the patient. The 70-year-old man was a heart patient and suffered from sudden angina pectoris. At this time, he was laid flat on the sleeper. Feng Qingxiu was far away and it was too late. Indeed, as the middle-aged male doctor said, his life was in danger. Feng Qingxiu decisively gave him the life-saving medicine she had prepared, such as isoamyl nitrite, succiaojuxin pills, etc., and they all changed their appearance. At the same time, unbutton the old man's jacket and loosen the collar. Then, he pressed a nitroglycerin tablet on the bottom of the old man's tongue. Compared with isoamyl nitrite, the effect is slower, but it can expand the coronary arteries, improve myocardial ischemia, and relieve symptoms such as angina pectoris. Following the acupuncture, the old man's expression finally eased, and a middle-aged man accompanying him thanked Feng Qingxiu profusely. Although he was relieved quickly, he had to be sent to the hospital. Feng Qingxiu said to the conductor, "My life has been saved for the time being, and my condition has been alleviated. It is impossible to alleviate it for a long time. We still have to send this comrade to the hospital without any delay." The conductor was so anxious that he was sweating, but the train can't turn back. The best hospital must be in the capital. The middle-aged man said decisively, "When we stop at the nearest stop, we will get off the car immediately and take the bus back to the capital. We have to trouble this comrade to accompany us, lest there is a crisis on the way that we cannot solve." The last sentence was said to Feng Qingxiu, with a very sincere attitude. "Ah," Feng Qingxiu pointed to her nose. When she saw the middle-aged man nodding, Feng Qingxiu couldn't refuse. After all, human life was at stake. Moreover, she could tell that this old man must be a senior cotter. She thought for a while and said to Ping Zhenkai, "Tell Ajong that I will go with this old comrade. You take the children home first. I will go home immediately after the old comrade is completely out of danger." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1359. The reason why Feng Qingxiu said this was because Lu Zhang had only taken a few days off and could not interrupt his trip and return to the capital. After explaining, Feng Qingxiu turned around and comforted the old man to prevent him from continuing to be nervous, fearful, and anxious. He also asked the onlookers to disperse, giving the old man a quiet environment and circulating air. The old man smiled at her, but the middle-aged man accompanying him was always nervous and sweating on his forehead. The same goes for standing outside waiting for the conductor. "I can't help but sweat in the winter." Ping Zhenkai knew that it was important to save people, so he could only report the truth to Lu Zhang. Faced with this situation, Lu Zhang couldn't say no, as human life was at stake. However, he was worried that his wife would go alone. He looked at Lu Tianzi and Guan Yu, but he couldn't follow her, because while he was working, the two brothers had to take care of their 5 children at home. It's impossible for Ping Zhenkai. He is his own guard. If he returns to the team, he must return to the team. For the first time, Lu Zhang regretted that the vacation he took was too short. If he takes 10 and 5 days more leave, he can accompany his wife back to the capital and return to the army when the old man's condition improves. It's too late to say anything now. The troops have strict discipline and he must set an example and abide by the discipline. "I'll stay with Mom." Zibao didn't fall asleep early like the triplets. After quietly listening to Ping Zhenkai's report, he suddenly said, "Everyone says I'm fine. Grandpa will definitely get better." Yes, Zibao is a lucky star with unparalleled luck. After verification, what the blind man said was true. Lu Zhang asked his nephew and guards to take care of Fu Bao and the triplets, and he took his eldest son to find Feng Qingxiu. The patient's condition has improved and he is talking to Feng Qingxiu with a smile. I'm fine now. It's just my old problem. I don't need you to follow me, and I don't need to get off the car in advance and transfer back to the capital. After listening to Lu Jiang's instructions to Feng Qingxiu, the old man ignored the middle-aged man's stop and spoke like this, with a kind look and a very kind attitude. Soft. After getting along with each other for a while, Feng Qingxiu finally remembered who this old man was. Luo Cheng, one of the founding fathers of the country, retired in the early 1960s because of poor health. Grandpa, you have to be obedient. Mom said you have to go to the hospital, so you have to go to the hospital. Don't be afraid of injections or taking medicine. I'll give you sweets. Zibao patted his leg, looking like a little adult. My mother is very powerful. She has saved many, many people. We will accompany you to the hospital, and then go home after you have been cured. Any old man will be happy involuntarily when seeing Zibao. I don't know what happened. The old man from Luocheng who was recognized by Feng Qingxiu was no exception. He burst into laughter instantly. What's your name, little one? My name is Zibao, and my nickname is Lu Tianmao. Grandpa, you can call me Zibao. Zibao behaved very generously. When Luo Cheng heard this, he immediately looked at Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu. Then you are Comrade Lu Zhang and Comrade Feng Qingxiu. Just now Comrade Qingxiu introduced his name. I thought it was Feng from Kaifeng and Qing from Qingtian. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu were both surprised. How do you know? The middle-aged man standing next to the old man also raised his eyebrows in surprise and glanced at the family of three. Luo Cheng smiled slightly. I have admired your name for a long time. You are the youngest commander of the army. Even if I don't inquire, some people tell me that I just have no chance to meet him. Feng Qingxiu said to her husband from the side, this is Comrade Luo Cheng. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1360. Of course Lu Zhang had also read the brief histories of characters that Feng Qingxiu had read. After hearing his wife's words, his eyes flashed. He looked at Luo Cheng carefully and immediately remembered who he was. The difference was that after the founding of the People's Republic of China, Luo Cheng was in politics instead of in the army, so he didn't recognize him for a while. He saluted the old man with a military salute and said, Hello Comrade Luo Cheng, I am Lu Zhang. Your reputation is so great that we, the younger generation, are not worth mentioning in front of you. Since this is Luocheng, there is no need to worry about the safety of his wife. However, Lu Zhang still asked Zibao to accompany Luo Cheng and his wife to get off the bus and return to Beijing, hoping that he could use the good fortune of his wife and son to turn the corner and not die of a heart attack on the road as recorded in history. Historically, Luo Cheng's death date is today. Feng Qingxiu also thought of this, so she took good care of Luo Cheng along the way until he arrived at the hospital safely. Luo Cheng refused several times because he didn't want to trouble Feng Qingxiu, so Zibao always said, Grandpa, you have to be obedient. Only if you obey can you get candy. The middle-aged man following Luo Cheng was Luo Cheng's guard Cao Hong. I don't know how he contacted him. Anyway, when Feng Qingxiu and her son got off the bus with Luo Cheng, a jeep immediately took them to Beijing. This stop was a small one and there was no suitable hospital, so Cao Hong advocated rushing back to the capital immediately. The speed is very fast. After getting off the bus, we got on the bus and arrived at our destination in half an hour. Luo Cheng's status is unusual. Even after retirement, his level is still the same as before retirement, and he enjoys all the benefits before retirement. As soon as he arrived at the hospital, a doctor immediately rushed to check him and entered into intense treatment. Although Luo Cheng's condition was relieved on the road, it was not eradicated and still required professional treatment. Feng Qingxiu was waiting outside the emergency room with Zibao. She was an adult and could still endure it. However, Zibao was so sleepy that his head almost fell to the ground. Feng Qingxiu supported him and leaned on her shoulders. After a while, Zibao fell asleep. Cao Hong noticed the scene and said hurriedly, "Comrade Qingxiu, I will arrange for you and Comrade Zibao to go to the guest house to rest first. Comrade Luo's condition is a bit serious. I don't know when he will be able to come out." Feng Qingxiu shook her head and said, "We are very worried about Comrade Luo. Let's wait until he comes out before leaving here to rest." Cao Hong felt warm in his heart after hearing this. No wonder everyone who mentioned Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu spoke highly of them. Luo Cheng's admission to the hospital was no small matter. He couldn't hide it from his superiors. After reporting it as usual, someone rushed over immediately. Feng Qingxiu wrapped her son in a military coat and forcibly cheered up. When she glanced around, she saw Wang Xinzhen's figure and stood up involuntarily. "Uncle Wang, are you here?" In addition to the old leader, several leaders came, including Wang Xinzhen and Lu Shui, which showed the importance of Luo Cheng's status. It took Wang Xinzhen a long time to see Feng Qingxiu and Zibao rubbing his eyes, with a surprised look on his face. "Didn't you two go back?" Feng Qingxiu smiled sheepishly. Cao Hong, who was next to him, covered up the turmoil in his heart and hurriedly explained, "Comrade Luo fell ill on the train. Fortunately, Comrade Qingxiu received timely treatment and was able to turn the corner. And because of Comrade Lu Zhang and Qingxiu, Comrade was worried, so Comrade Qingxiu followed him back to the capital." After listening to this, several leaders suddenly realized, and at the same time they had a deeper understanding of Feng Qingxiu's medical skills. "I haven't deleted as much as I wrote. I'll update it in the evening. Tickets."